Most players experience Elden Ring as an adventure. But if you're an environment artist, you're looking at something very different. You're looking at composition, you're looking at guiding lines, you're looking at visual storytelling. And whether you realize it or not, you're looking at production level thinking. Today, I want to break down what Elden Ring can teach you as an environment artist and why this kind of thinking is exactly what studios are looking for. When studios review portfolios, they're not just looking for pretty renders. They're looking for artists who understand visual language, readability, mood, and structure. And Elden Ring is a masterclass in all of that. One of the biggest strengths of Elden Ring's environments is that they tell you what happened without anyone explaining it to you. No need for cutscenes. And that's not accidental. That's deliberate environment storytelling. Look at the architecture. It's not just fantasy ruins. The scale suggests former power. The damage suggests conflict. The erosion suggests time. The world feels ancient because the assets are designed with narrative embedded into them. In production, this matters. A wall isn't just geometry, it's storytelling. If your portfolio environments don't communicate history, they feel staged, and stage environments feel amateur. Scale and emotional weight. When first stepping into Limgrave, the open landscape, the distant Erd tree, the low ruins, the scale contrast immediately creates awe. Notice how small you feel compared to the world. Look at the large negative space, the clear horizon lines, the strong vertical focal point, the Erd tree, the silhouette clarity. Many junior portfolios overfill scenes with detail. Elden Ring shows restraint. It uses space intentionally. That restraint is a professional skill. Elden Ring environments are detailed but readable. Even in highly complex ruins, you can quickly understand where you are, what's important, where you can go. That is clarity through value grouping, shape hierarchy, control color palettes. Studios look for clarity. If your scene feels visually confusing at first glance, it won't pass a portfolio review. Elden Ring environments feel organic, but they are heavily composed. Nothing is random. Every ruin, every broken pillar, every light source serves a compositional purpose. If your scene feels scattered or overly decorative, it reads as amateur. Strong environments guide the eye. Notice how paths curve toward points of interest. Notice how architecture frames doorways. These are compositional tools, the same principles used in concept art. Lines guide player movement, so placement is deliberate. It's not just random set dressing. Light contrast pulls attention. Vertical structures anchor orientation and signals to the player where they can go and where they cannot go. If your environment doesn't guide the eye, it feels random. Composition isn't just for paintings, it's critical in 3D spaces. Landmark design. Strong landmarks create spatial memory. They prevent the world from feeling repetitive. Landmark reuse saves production time. Silhouette uniqueness increases readability. Large-scale shapes must read from far away. Recruiters immediately notice when artists don't understand large-scale readability. If your scene only looks good from one camera angle, it's not production ready. Framing and depth. Think about archways framing bosses. Foreground debris adding depth. Layered composition. Foreground, midground, background. Elden Ring constantly layers space. Foreground shapes. Midground action. Distant landmarks. This creates depth and cinematic presence. Atmospheric perspective, value fall off, contrast isolation. If your portfolio scenes feel flat, it's often because they lack layered depth and contrast separation. In Elden Ring, architecture communicates decay and history. Scale creates emotional weight. Silhouettes read from far away. Landmarks guide exploration. If your environment doesn't communicate mood instantly, it won't survive in production. Recruiters look for clarity, not clutter. If you're having a hard time mastering those competitive games, I have a solution for you. Now let me introduce you to the channel's sponsor, SkyCoach. You can get blueprints, materials, weapons, coins, keys, and much, much more for a game such as Arc Raiders, for instance, that will help you to cut through the grinding. There is currently over 120 games from the most popular games, ranging in types from MMORPGs to shooters to sports game. But SkyCoach can take your gameplay to the next level. You can have some of the best players in the game analyze your gameplay, provide feedback, and help you develop winning strategy. SkyCoach has a 4.6 rating on Trustpilot with well over 22,000 reviews. They have served over 150K customers so far, and they offer support 24/7. So you can purchase their services with peace of mind. So try out SkyCoach to bring your gaming experience to the next level. Use the link in my description and my promo code NEXTLEVEL to get 10% off. I would now like to take a moment to show the process around Stormveil Castle. So those are images provided by FromSoftware. So as you can see, this is very basic blockout with tileable material. This is only the first blockout. Now here we have some work that's been done. It looks better. The materials are well blended together, at least better than from the blockout. You have some moss going on, you have some wear and tear, you have some architectural details that add quite a bit. And while this is obviously not a finished piece of work, too often portfolios from junior artists end up looking something like this. No disrespect. Again, this is a work in progress. We're not talking about the final version. We're talking about the level of research, the level of lore that is associated with the location. And what I mean is not that the studios are expecting that you put as much work and you hire George R.R. Martin. Of course not. You do not need to create a novel or series of novels around your project, but you have to put some thoughts into it. It cannot be generic castle number 5,600 that they've seen during the recruitment period, because medieval castle, there are different countries in Europe, there are different architectural styles, different period of time, of course, but at the end of the day, close your eyes, think about a castle, this is what it looks like, right? So it's extremely generic. But by adding research, putting some thoughts into it, and of course by adding ornamentations, decorations, but more than that, researching a little bit more the architectural side, the natural wear and tear, and then you end up with a glorious piece of art, which we all know now as the first legacy dungeon of Elden Ring, which is Stormveil Castle. So you do not need to create something like Stormveil Castle regarding its scale, the massive amount of time that you would need to put. This is not what studios are expecting. But if you could put the same level of dedication, research, passion, it would go a very long way for your portfolio. Speaking of which, I'm giving away a portfolio checklist that gives many tips and directions on what to include on your portfolio, what not to forget, and basically what matters to hiring teams. So it's completely free. Check it out. The link is in the description. Now let's talk about something that most players don't consciously notice, but every material artist absolutely should. Surface logic. Elden Ring's materials are not just detailed, they're structured. When you look at a piece of armor or stone wall in Elden Ring, it might feel incredibly complex. But if you break it down, you'll notice a very clear hierarchy of detail. Large forms, primary shapes, clear silhouette, broad value grouping, major material separation, metal versus cloth versus leather. Medium detail, edge wear, panel separations, bolts, straps, seams, controlled roughness variation. Micro detail, surface noise, subtle scratches, micro normal breakup, slight roughness randomness. Most junior portfolios jump straight to micro detail. Professionals build from large to small. One of the biggest differences between amateur and AAA materials is roughness discipline. Metals in Elden Ring are not uniformly glossy. Edge highlights are controlled. Roughness maps create subtle breakup. Highlights feel intentional, not noisy. Notice how light doesn't scatter randomly? It reacts logically to surface wear. That's because the roughness variation supports the story of the object. In production, readability under different lighting conditions is critical. Your asset won't live under one cinematic light. It needs to hold up everywhere. Look at how edge wear is used in Elden Ring. It's not a smart mask preset slapped on everything. It follows logic, contact points, movement friction, age, and use. It reinforces the history of the object. If your materials feel procedural, it's often because they lack narrative logic. Try to stay away from all those procedural masks in Substance Painter. Paint details manually following real references. This is crucial for environment artists. Even the most intricate armor designs maintain strong value grouping. You can squint and still read the form. Clear separation between primary and secondary materials, controlled contrast, no chaotic highlights, no noisy albedo. Recruiters look at your work for seconds. If it doesn't read instantly, it loses impact. The stone in Elden Ring doesn't just look old, it feels layered. moss accumulation in crevices, dirt where water would realistically collect, subtle color variation within same material family, height breakup for silhouette irregularity. Material blending is done through vertex painting logic, height blending, controlled repetition, avoiding tiling patterns. The difference between a game-ready environment and a student scene is often repetition control. What makes Elden Ring's materials feel premium is not just detail, it's restraint. Not every surface is hyper-scratched. Not every edge is chipped. Not every material is high contrast. Variation is intentional, not constant. Over-detailing is one of the fastest ways to make your work look less professional. AAA materials aren't about complexity. They're about control. Control of value, control of roughness, control of hierarchy. And that control is what separates professional work from practice work. And what's even more impressive is how this material logic stays consistent across an entire open world, which is something we'll look at next. It's one thing to create a beautiful environment, it's another thing to maintain artistic cohesion across an entire open world. And this is where Elden Ring becomes truly impressive. Because consistency at scale is one of the hardest problems in environment art production. Start with the concept of visual language. Every region in Elden Ring feels distinct, but it never feels like a different game. Architectural motifs repeat: arches, Gothic verticality, ruined silhouettes. Material families are reused logically. Ornamentation style stays within the same cultural language. Shape language remains recognizable. Variation exists, but it happens within a controlled visual vocabulary. That control is art direction, and art direction is what keeps a massive team aligned. Notice how each region has its own dominant palette, but those palettes don't clash. Limgrave, muted greens, earth tones, soft atmosphere. Caelid, aggressive reds and decay. Liurnia, cooler blues and mist. Altus Plateau, radiant golds, late afternoon warmth, divine opulence. Ordina Liturgical Town, spectral whites, frozen blues, candlelit gold. Noxtella Eternal City, with its sky gradients from violet to muted purple. Palette shifts reinforce mood. Regions are emotionally distinct. Transitions between areas are gradual, not abrupt. In production, color scripting prevents visual fatigue and supports pacing. If your portfolio pieces all use wildly different lighting styles and color logic, it can feel inconsistent, even if each piece is strong individually. This is gold for environment artists. Open world production requires heavy asset reuse. There's no way around that. Modular ruins reconfigured. Material blending changes perceived age. Lighting shifts transform mood. Landmark placement changes context. The same asset can feel completely different depending on composition and lighting. Junior artists often think repetition is bad. In production, repetition is necessary. The skill is distinguishing it. Cohesion isn't just about assets. It's about scale hierarchy. There's the macro scale. world landmarks, major silhouettes visible from distance. Then there's the mid-scale, regional architecture, settlements, ruins. Then there's the micro-scale, props, debris, decals, surface breakup. Elden Ring maintains clarity at every level. Elden Ring maintains clarity at every scale. That's hard. When reviewing portfolios, inconsistency in scale logic is a common red flag. Props that feel oversized, details that overpower structure, scenes that collapse visually when zoomed out. If you're learning from these videos but struggling to put everything together into a full environment, that's exactly why I built my full course. You'll build the entire scene step by step in real time, understanding composition, scale, materials, and lighting, so you can apply the same process to your own world. These environments were created by students using the same workflow you'll learn here. It's designed for artists who already know the basics and want to create portfolio-level work, not just isolated studies. This isn't about learning tools, it's about learning how professionals build environments. If that's where you're trying to get to, you can check it out in the description. A world like this isn't built by one artist. It's built by teams. We need clear style guides, material libraries, shared trim sheets, lighting standards, art direction reviews, consistent PBR values. Cohesion at this scale only happens when the artistic vision is clearly defined and protected. Why this matters for your portfolio. You don't need to build an open world, but your 1 to 3 portfolio pieces should feel like they belong in the same universe. You should show consistent material response, unified lighting logic, cohesive shape language, no random stylistic jumps. Cohesion signals maturity. Chaos signals experimentation. And experimentation feels junior. The reason Elden Ring feels believable isn't just details. It's alignment. Alignment of materials, alignment of color, alignment of scale, alignment of visual language. And that alignment is what makes a world feel professionally built. That's the level of intentionality studios expect, even in a single portfolio scene. So if you want to study games like Elden Ring effectively, don't just study the assets. Study the system behind the assets. So what does all of this actually mean for you as an environment artist? It's easy to admire a game like Elden Ring, but admiration doesn't make you better. Deconstruction does. If you want to work in AAA, you have to study games like this differently. Most artists study games emotionally. They look at what feels cool. Professionals study games analytically. They ask, why does this work? Instead of this environment feels epic, ask, where are the focal points? What's the large, medium, small detail ratio? How is color scripting reinforcing mood? What elements are reused? If you can't explain why something works, you can't replicate it intentionally. One of the biggest mistakes in junior portfolios is decoration without intention. Adding props, adding decals, adding scratches, adding noise. But professional environments aren't decorative. They're structured. When building your next scene, define the focal point first. Decide the material hierarchy early. Choose a restrained palette. Limit your detail layers. Establish scale logic before macro detail. Intentionality reads as maturity. Even if you're building a solo portfolio piece, think like you're part of a team. Ask yourself, does this scene match a clear visual language? Are materials consistent? Would this asset library scale? Could someone else add to this world logically? Studios hire artists who can plug into pipelines, not just produce pretty renders. Study systems, not assets. The real lesson from Elden Ring isn't a specific material or prop, it's the system behind them. Control hierarchy, cohesive art direction, intentional reuse, structured composition, disciplined material response. That system is what makes the world feel believable. And that's exactly what hiring managers are looking for in your portfolio. Here's a simple exercise. Take one area from Elden Ring, screenshot it, break it down into large shapes, medium detail, micro detail, primary material types, focal points. Then rebuild a small section from scratch, focusing only on hierarchy and clarity. The difference between a fan and a professional artist isn't passion, it's intention. And if you start studying games like Elden Ring through a production lens, your portfolio will start to reflect that shift. If you're building your environment art portfolio right now, I put together a free portfolio checklist that breaks down exactly what studios evaluate. It includes many tips and insights from the hiring team. You can download it for free using the link in the description and use it for your next projects. If you're serious about working in the game industry, if you're ready to raise your standards, subscribe. And let's build work that belongs in a studio, not just on an unfinished portfolio. Shout out to the members of the channel, and you are all welcome to join. Additional perks will be added very soon.